Well, the Sierra Club is a US-based organization on the forefront of the fight against climate change. But that wasn't always the case. CGTN's Terrett sat down with the former executive director of the Sierra Club at the recent Bloomberg Global Business Forum. John asked Carl Pope how the organization grew from a small conservation group to the environmental defender it's become today.
When it was founded 125 years ago, as long as you kept the guy with the chainsaw out of a forest, the forest could take care of itself.
Right.
With climate change, if you don't fix climate change, the forest is going to burn up because it's going to be too hot and too dry. So climate change forced the Sierra Club to get into the business not only of stopping bad things like chainsaws in parks where they don't belong, but also making good things like solar panels happen fast enough that we didn't totally fry the planet.
But that change was driven by you in your 18 years at the top, right?
Well, I presided over it. I used to say that I didn't lead the Sierra Club, I howded it. The Sierra Club was the elephant, and the elephant ultimately decides where it wants to go. But I sat on top of it and tried to nudge it periodically.
Now, do you think the club, given everything that we now know and everything that we've heard about, is activist enough? I mean, could it do more?
Well, I'm sure that in theory, on any given weekend, it could do more.
Right.
But if you look back at the last 125 years, I have to say I think the model has proven very good at getting the most you can for the long haul. The Sierra Club is a very long-haul organization.
Right. When you first broached the idea of making it more activist, of raising the red flag about climate, how was that met within the organization at the beginning of your tenure, 18 more years?
No, that actually happened fairly far along in my tenure, and I didn't raise the flag. We went out, George Bush was president, things were not going very well. We went out to our 5,000 or 6,000 grassroots leaders and said, what do you want to work on? What gets you up in the morning?
They told you?
And they told us. And then we had to figure out, what does this mean? Because we'd worked on climate, but never as a primary focus.
Right.
And they were saying, it's all about climate. Make that the big deal.
Okay, which brings us to the famous quote. If we don't save the planet, there won't be any tortoises left to save. That's your quote. People remember you for it. Did you ever think that we'd be where we are today so fast?
Well, two things have happened much faster than I ever imagined. One, the climate has been disrupted far faster than we anticipated.
Right.
But second, if you said to me, would I be sitting here in 2019 and saying to you confidently, I can replace your car with a 100% clean electric car and save you money. I can replace your electricity with 100% renewables and save you money. And I can give you a house without a utility bill and it will be cheaper than the house you live in now. I would not have believed that was possible. So both the problem and the solutions have moved much faster. I guess that's the 20th century.
Well, so what do you think is the message then that the world is not getting?
The world is still being told that solving climate is a sacrifice. It's an opportunity. The world is still looking at nation states, those paralyzed behemoths from the last century, to solve the problem, when in fact the problem is going to be solved by businesses, it's going to be solved by communities, it's going to be solved by mayors, it's going to be solved by governors and provinces.
Give us some concrete examples. What could cities and businesses and citizens do just immediately to help?
The city of San Jose voted that any new building that is built in San Jose will have to be 100% pollution-free. You can't burn gas in a furnace, you can't burn oil in a furnace. It is going to have to be 100% pollution-free. And if every city in the world did that, it would make just an astonishing difference in how fast we can solve the climate crisis.
So what is the link then between economic development and sustainability?
The link is we have to substitute efficient use of our brains for inefficient use of things we mine from the earth. It's about substituting knowledge for extraction. The mining era is over. We need to mine much less copper ore. We need to mine much less iron ore by 2050 than we are today. And we're going to have an economy that'll be 5 times bigger. That means for every pound of stuff we take out of the ground, we probably have to get 10 times as much value. This has got to be the value-adding century.
Finally, the Secretary General of the United Nations said the other day, after the youth strike and the youth day at the UNGA and the big climate conference, that he saw young people taking the lead and that they had changed him from being pessimistic on the climate to being optimistic. Where are you? Are you optimistic or are you pessimistic?
I'm optimistic about our ability to cut our emissions. I'm pessimistic about the fact we've already done a lot of damage, and once we cut our emissions, we're going to have to get ready for the bigger storms, the longer droughts, the hotter fires, the deeper floods that are going to happen because of things we did yesterday. I'm very optimistic about tomorrow, but we're still going to have to pay the price for yesterday.